Welcome back to Moody Blooms. I'm Mary Ellen, and today we are going to be covering some crazy fun facts about the Dionaea muscipula plant, commonly known as the Venus flytrap. Now, this plant is one of the most well-known carnivorous plants, and what that means is that it actually gets its nutrients from trapping and consuming animals, typically insects and other arthropods, and occasionally some small mammals and even some birds. They still generate all of their energy from photosynthesis. Venus flytraps are actually endangered species. And actually in 1979, the wild population of the Venus flytrap was estimated to be around 4.5 million individual plants. And unfortunately, in about 2019, they did another survey, and this was done by the North Carolina Natural Heritage Program, and they estimated there to be only about 302,000 individual plants. And poaching is definitely the biggest threat for Venus flytraps, and also due to the destruction of the natural habitats that they grow in. But this plant is actually classified as a vulnerable species by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, so it's protected. Venus flytrap produces beautiful white flowers. Now, when most people think of the Venus flytrap, they picture a large, toothy mouth or without a face or head, and this can be quite alarming and terrifying even. But the truth is that this plant actually has beautiful blooms. These plants are perennials, which means the Venus flytrap life cycle repeats, and they bloom every year. When they do, they sprout gorgeous white flowers with green veins. Another fun fact is that Venus flytraps can digest meat. However, don't feed your plant hamburgers because that will actually cause it to rot. Although it is a carnivorous plant, it cannot eat the same type of meat as humans. If it does, the plant will turn black, rot, and it'll die if it's fed anything close to a fast food hamburger. Now, given the common name Venus flytraps, obviously they eat bugs. But this plant also eats other insects besides flies. They have a wide range, anywhere from spiders to beetles and pretty much every insect in between. The only insect that this plant does not eat are those that pollinate, like bees. Another interesting fact is that their most common meal is actually not a fly. You might be surprised to learn that Venus flytraps do not need bugs to survive. Now, of course, it does eat bugs, but it doesn't actually need the bugs to feed on for its survival. Like all plants, the Venus flytrap can produce its own food through the process of photosynthesis. However, Venus flytraps in the wild don't get enough nutrients from the soil in their natural habitats. So eating insects is their way of supplementing their diets so they can thrive rather than just survive. You might want to keep these beauties in your home because they actually reduce the bug population indoors. Venus flytraps also catch the occasional frog. Now, this is a fantastic plant and a perfectly adapted hunter. Besides trapping and feeding on small insects such as beetles and flies, they can also eat slightly larger prey. These plants also catch snails. Venus flytraps only eat live prey. Now, in their natural habitat, they can easily get triggered by inanimate objects that fall into the plant, something like a twig or a leaf or a rock, and it'll cause its jaws to shut. But when the Venus flytrap closes its mouth on something, it'll wait to detect motion from the object to verify that it's caught an actual live insect. If the object doesn't move, the plant will open again. Venus flytraps are native to North and South Carolina. In fact, they do not grow anywhere else in the entire world. And they're actually the state carnivorous plant for North Carolina. You might be surprised to learn that there's also a red Venus flytrap, and they are beautiful. Now, there's no doubt that this plant is highly advanced and developed, and one of its main point of attractions for the prey is actually its nectar. But the plant also can emit this blue light that is very attractive to insects. While the nectar plays a significant role in attracting prey, the plant boosts its odds by capturing prey by producing a fluorescent blue glow to attract insects. There are over 50 varieties of Venus flytraps. Although there is only one species of Venus flytrap, and it is native to a small region of eastern North and South Carolina. Over the years, it has been bred to exhibit different traits, and there are now dozens of different cultivars on the market. Venus flytraps lure prey with sweet nectar and bright colors. You may have noticed that Venus flytraps often have bright red color on the inside of their lobes, and this bright color has a specific purpose: to attract prey. Additionally, the plant also secretes a sweet nectar that draws insects in. Once they have caught an insect, the trap will secrete an enzyme that fills up the trap and drowns the victim to kill it. Then the digestion process can begin. After a Venus flytrap catches an insect, it has to start the digestion process to break it down and absorb all the nutrients inside of it. This can take a really long time, as long as several days or even several weeks. Once capturing an insect, the flytrap produces a liquid in the same way a human stomach operates. However, the plant's digestive system is slow and can take up to 10 days for it to fully digest an insect before reopening the trap. Although it cannot digest the exoskeletons, instead, once the digestion is over, the trap reopens and the fly spits out the insect's bones. Once the carnivorous plant has eaten its meal, it can go for several months without another meal and still survive. However, you can feed it as many bugs as you want. Most experts advise that you only feed one trap on your Venus flytrap at a time, as your plant will sprout multiple traps. Something you also may not have known is that tap water kills the Venus flytraps. Also, their trapping mechanism is extremely advanced. Do not give this beauty any fertilizers, as it can kill the flytrap. Now, you may be happy to find out that these flytraps are harmless to humans and pets. No matter how scary they look, they won't do any harm. It's important to remember that they do not have any teeth, and they actually don't chew their victims. Their traps are made to trap small insects. If you decide to stick your finger in the trap, you'll barely feel any pressure at all. And these plants are even considered edible. That's why they make such great houseplants. They're 100% safe. And they also will catch any bugs that are in your home, which may be a nice benefit. A Venus flytrap will change colors according to their needs. This plant can also propagate through 5 different paths. They open their traps in a concave or convex shape. This is the most recognized and grown carnivorous plant in the world. Venus flytraps only close when they are touched. While it may seem like these wide-mouthed perennial plants will shut their jaws on demand, the closing of the 2 hinge lobes is an involuntary reaction that happens when the plant is touched. Venus flytraps have hair-like projects. When the prey becomes in contact with these tiny little hairs, the lobes automatically shut. The plant will actually try to save energy by only snapping shut when the little hairs are touched multiple times in a row. A Venus flytrap can only close so many times without being fed. So this amazing mechanism increases the chance that the lobes will snap shut on a live crawling insect and help avoid false closure. Venus flytraps can live for as long as 20 years. The perennial plant will actually grow back every year. The trap on each plant can only open and close so many times. After opening and closing several times during the season, the trap will eventually die and fall off. During the next blooming season, the flytrap will sprout new traps from the underground stem it has. Although the Venus flytraps can live for some time, their trapping time is limited. That's because after every capture, the plant's trap remains closed for about 7 to 10 days. This prevents it from getting more nutrients, which are essential to its survival. Also, the plant's trap only opens and closes about 6 times before it permanently closes. While the trap will continue photosynthesizing to provide more nutrients to the plant, it's not able to capture insects. Venus flytraps are actually named after a goddess, Venus, in reference to the Roman goddess. Venus is known as the goddess of love and beauty. An ancient mythological story of Venus details an instance where she fashions a net out of gold to catch lovers who betray their partners. Not only is the Venus flytrap a beautiful plant full of inviting color, but it also entices and traps its prey, just like the goddess Venus. Scientists have invented robotic flytraps. Scientists are now taking a keen interest in robotic animals and plants. When the time comes for robots to take over the world, you must watch out for the mechanic flytrap. Technologists in South Korea and Maine have already created small automated replicas that trap insects and digest them for fuel. Now, this plant has evolved from the early sundew relative, and although Charles Darwin worked very hard on trying to determine the evolutionary origin of the Venus flytrap, he was not successful, and it's only a recent discovery. A study conducted in 2009 identified a genetic relationship between sundews and the VENUS flytrap. Sundews are very primitive bug gobblers. Thanks so much for joining us on Moody Blooms. I hope you learned something new about the beautiful VENUS flytrap. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and we'll see you next time.